Welcome to our brand new podcast featuring the Eric Torgerson and the Patrick Hall, with collaboration from Trace Green and Angela Gillum, who decided to skip out today and is not wanting to be a part of our first episode. I'll have words with her later for that. But this podcast is aimed towards our middle level leadership teams, our supervisors, our ops managers, project managers, folks who are on the ground day to day working with our folks that are getting the job done. We and by we, I mean Eric, Patrick, and I have a combined total of over 60 years of leadership experience, in different industries across the spectrum. And we wanted to share some of the insights that we have a couple laughs, and really just kind of talk through what we do and how we do it. And maybe we spark some interest and we spark a good idea that you have, or we reinforce ideas that you've already had. So, with that, I'll turn it over to Eric and let Eric introduce himself.
Thanks, Rob. So exactly what Rob said. Really, what I want to get out of this is maybe help people not make the mistakes I did in leadership. I've been doing this for 35 years, managing people. Made a lot of mistakes. Uh, Done a lot of good things too. But one of the things that a goal of this ever since Rob had this idea is let I want young leaders to learn from my mistakes. So what we're going to do in these sessions is talk about some some tricks, some tips, some things not to do, some things to do, and then share our experience and our and I was going to say wisdom. Uh, just a casual conversation that hopefully somebody can pick up a technique that works for them. We probably won't, talk about a lot of new stuff or anything that hasn't been done before. We're not, we're not going to solve the world's problems, but hopefully we can touch some people that are just starting in leadership. It doesn't have to be a lot of our experience, the three of us, a call center experience. It doesn't have to, we're not going to talk about call center. We're going to talk about how to lead people. One reason somebody leaves their job is their immediate supervisor. And I don't care what the letters above the door say, it's that's why they leave. So I'm hoping to get out of this and through our conversations, some fun and joking around, that we can help people make sure folks stay with them and want to come in every day. It's a tough, tough environment out there right now. A lot of companies, I don't care what environment you're in or what industry you're in, a lot of companies are having trouble with attendance and attrition and keeping people. So maybe one of our stupid stories can hit home and help somebody. So, I you're going to learn if you guys keep watching these shows. You're going to learn that I talk all the time and tell stupid stories. So I'm going to stop there and pass it to Pat.
Thanks, Eric. My name is Patrick Hall. We are here to relate our experience to so many different fields, and I think you're going to find that there's going to be so many different points of interest that we're going to have that really, across the board can be relatable in a lot of different ways. So I know that having worked with both Rob and Eric, there's been many things I've heard them say because they do really love to talk. It's true. But there's definitely some, their experiences and stories and things really, really do touch on a lot of areas that show how when you have a good leader, it makes the whole job so much easier and so much more livable. One of my mantras that I have grown to, to have and just now just try to make it a part of everything I do is, positive work environment is real and it is something we can all affect. Whether you're an employee or a manager, we all have the capacity to influence and change the environment around us. Something that I know that you're going to see is when you see and hear about the differences a good manager or a bad manager make, exactly to Eric's point, it makes the job either unbearable or it makes it a safe harbor for people to go to because life happens and you can make the job a place that makes their life worse, or you can make that job a place that people go to and they feel better and they feel like they can, you know, be around people who care about them more than things that may be happening. So there is something holistically better about having that authentic leadership. And that's what we really hope to bring stories of and talk about, and maybe even in the future have guests on who can relate to that as well, to provide those examples and those hopefully those lessons, lessons learned and best practices, because at the end of the day, nothing that we're going to say is proprietary. Nothing what we're going to say is copywritten. It's going to be stuff that should be shared with everyone, which is why we think that we wanted to do this in the first place. So, but
Yeah.
that's kind of what we're looking for. Back to you, Rob.
Did he freeze, or is he just doing his?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right, Patrick. I mean, how about now? Can you hear me now? Okay,
Yeah.
good Lord. No, Patrick, what you said is exactly right. Nothing that we're going to talk about is groundbreaking. Nothing is earth shattering. It's all practical application of all the books that are out there. First break all the rules, 1 Minute Manager. They all eventually boil down to the same thing. And what we're looking for is we're looking for real people, right? We're authentic leaders, right? We're not I'm not sitting here in a suit and tie recording a podcast because I want this thing to be the most professional thing in the world. I'm sitting here unshaven, mostly bald, and in a t-shirt, Skillet t-shirt, by the way, FYI. Go Skillet. I love Skillet. If anybody's never been to a Skillet concert, it's definitely one to go to. But we're just gonna sit and have some conversations, and we're gonna have some conversations with some of the leaders that the three of us have worked with and worked for in the past, and that have made profound impacts. And I want to touch on something that Patrick said. The environment that you build, and it's not about being friends with somebody. I remember one of, I hate to say it because I like the guy a lot. But one of the worst leaders that I've ever had in my career was one of my best friends. Um, we'd go out on Thursday nights and we'd have some adult beverages and we'd have a great time. And then we'd come into the office the next day or a week later or whatever, and he would be a complete and total tyrant. And I didn't want to live there. I didn't want to work there. And I didn't want to work there because of my friend. Right. So, it's not about being friendly and making friends with everybody that works with you. It's about being your true self. And I think that was one of the biggest problems that I had was I knew his true self. I knew who he was. But then he puts on the suit and tie and, the stick gets shoved somewhere. And now all of a sudden he's corporate boss man. And that's not him. That's not who he was. I got more coaching and development out of this man on his back patio at 3 o'clock in the morning after we had had a night out than I ever got in the office. Right. And I mean, that's just, that's how it was. He was real at that point.
What's really funny is I remember having an interview for a supervisor position that I didn't get one time because I talked about being friendly and to the employees and making sure that we have that positive work environment relationship. And I remember their biggest concern was, well, you want to be friends with your team. That does, and it was just like, well, no, it's not about being friends, but I can be friendly though. I can be, I want to have a good relationship with people because I want to break down those walls and barriers because I want to be able to, work with them and coach, and I want to make this a safe place for them to be at. And what was so funny is the way that they were like, well, it just sounds like you want to be friends with your team. It's like, no, that's not like there is a difference, I can I've seen same thing, Rob. I've seen that same thing when I worked at a PF Chang's. I had two different sous chefs, one who was the likable person, but one was, and the other one was the one you respected. The one you respected was the one you wanted to be on the line with. He was there with you during the times when it was tough. The person you liked was funny, had great jokes, but middle of when it's we're doing a $50,000 night and everything's rushing and everything. He's got a call and, oh, I got to drop out for a while. And it's like, whoa, hey man, like, so there is a definite difference between that point of being someone's friend versus being the authentic person and understanding that who you're working with are human beings. They deserve to be treated nice. No, you don't have to be their friends, but you have to be able to connect with them.
Yeah.
And it sounds like he didn't understand the idea of connecting with you out of work somehow doesn't translate to connecting with you in work, And I think I know who you're talking about, but it is definitely one of those weird, out of work, in work mentalities that I still don't understand to this day.
Patrick, you're exactly right. I mean, it's engaging with the person, not so much being, you know, being friendly and engaging with that person. But the stories that you just said reminds me of what we used to call that back in the company. We used to call what you're talking about, Rob, blue badge syndrome. And why we called it blue badge syndrome is the company I worked for. We all had badges to get into the building, but there was different color badges. So a yellow badge, you work during the day. A red badge, you work during the night. And then all the management, so supervisors, managers, VPs, everybody, they all had blue badges. Not sure why that company did it way back when. I don't see any company do that anymore. But anyway, so all of a sudden you'd be working yellow badges, working, having a good time, maybe go out, have some adult beverages, everything's good, maybe your friends. Then all of a sudden they get promoted to supervisor and they get that blue badge and they're a total ass. And so we call that the blue badge syndrome. Now all of a sudden I got this blue badge, so I can tell you what to do. And that was one of my first educations of a manager or a leader. And I'm like, well, I don't want that disease. I don't want to have the blue badge syndrome. So you're totally right. And I think we'll talk more, a lot of our conversations will lead back to things and examples of not what to do, because unfortunately, people learn more from their mistakes than they do their accomplishments. And I have been trying to change that my whole life, learning more from my accomplishments. But for some reason, I learned more because mistakes hurt more, and you remember them. When you fall down and skin your knee, that hurts a lot more than, well, I was going to say slam a basketball, but I've never done that in my life. So, but anyway, yeah, if I ever did, I would learn more. I would remember the ski and knee than I would more swim in the basketball. So anyway,
Just get a trampoline, dude. Just get a trampoline, a step ladder. I'll put you on my shoulders.
I need like a 10-foot ladder.
Yeah, no, you do.
10 foot away.
Yeah, the net is 10 feet. But you know what? I think you bring up an amazing point, and another target to our audience is those that have just recently started leading people. I'm not going to speak for Eric and Patrick, but I'll tell you right now, knowing what I know now, I would fire myself probably 5 or 6 times when I was first a supervisor.
Oh, Rob, I suck.
Yeah.
I should have. You guys, I should have never been promoted to a supervisor. I was 21-ish.
Same.
And had no business leading people. No business. I had no experience, and I remember the person that hired me originally, and I don't know what she saw in me. But yeah, I would fire me too. I suck.
Well, and that's the thing, right? So you'll get ops managers and site directors and folks that hire these supervisors with no experience, that have never been trained, no formal training, and then go, well, why do they suck? What do you mean, why do they suck? You didn't teach them. Like, right. That's why they suck. Fix it.
There's nothing wrong with doing that, as long as you train them and educate them and give them the tools and resources to do that. But you're right. There are so many people that, and companies that all of us have worked together. Hey, you're promoted to a supervisor. Here's your team of 15 to 20 people. Good luck. So many companies do that now. And it's a budget thing. You know, back in the first company I worked for, they invested so much. I don't know how much. I bet what was spent on me in training to develop me as a manager. I won't say it was in the millions, but it was about $500,000 through my career that they invested in me to train me and give me the tools and resources to be a leader. I don't see that anymore.
No. I was lucky that when I first got promoted to a supervisor, the team that I was supposed to have wasn't out yet from training. So I actually had a couple weeks with no team, which I wished that every supervisor that I was working with at the time had what I got, because I was able to shadow and mentor some of the best people, at least that I knew of, and was able to just watch how they coach and watch how they organize themselves and everything. Don't get me wrong, same as you guys, I probably had a few moments where, I probably should have been walked out the building, but to your point, Eric, 100%. There's no training involved much in leadership in that way, at least not in sort of I would say the vast majority of companies nowadays. They'll even do things like they'll provide a database of training and stuff, but you're doing that on your own time. There's no hey, we're going to take you out for a week to get you into this extreme leadership training course. No, there's nothing like that.
Well, and
there's a knowledge base or a playbook, and or go read
if
that.
If you have a knowledge base,
if you have a knowledge base, right? But and to be frank, all that leadership training that they give you, though, it's I've been through so many leadership training modules. Let me get this joke in before I go into this. Eric, you said the first company you worked for, is that the first company that developed and found the wheel? Sorry.
Yeah. Right there with Fred Flintstone. I was there.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But so many of these leadership modules are all practical. And one of my favorite quotes is, and I'm going to quote it, and I'm in posterity now for quoting this. And if I quote it wrong, then Jaden can flog me for it. But in practice, no, in theory, there is no difference between theory and practice. In practice, there is, right? So all of these leadership modules, they'll send you through, okay, what would you do in this situation? And you sit there and you look at it and you go, well, fire them, write them up, have a conversation, do nothing. Like, okay, obviously the answer is have a conversation, but are you actually going to have that conversation? That's why I hate personality tests. I hate those because it's all about your mindset while you take those tests. What it really comes down to is figuring out how you are going to actually address the situation as you, not as a blue badge, not as a yellow lanyard, not as a supervisor, not as somebody who's a friend. How are you going to address the situation to make it better for you and the person you're? That's what we want to touch into, and we want to tap into it, and we want to figure out how do we do that. And I think, Patrick alluded to it earlier. We're going to have some guests. We've got some guests who, quite frankly, are some of the best leaders I've ever worked with in my entire career. I've modeled my career after them. I've tried to, at least. And, they're really just good, genuine people.
Well, thank you for the compliment, Bob.
And they're taller than Eric.
So I'm going to have to disagree with you a little bit on, which is fine. We're going to disagree, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
This isn't, like we said, this isn't a book that we wrote. Not maybe disagree is just too strong a word, but I know you don't like tests and the personality test, but I'm big on the personality type test. Not to get all hung up about it, but I think it's a stepping stone and a tool that you can use to figure out, all right, colors, true colors. You can Google it, true colors. I know Rob hates me for this, but I'm a big believer of the true colors personality test. Very simple. There's like 11 questions. So the first step is finding out what type of personality you are. So they break it down 4 different personalities. So I'll make this quick. So you figure out what your personality is, great. Then the second part of that in the training and learning, it's a quick training, is now I know that I'm a type of personality, but how do I deal with a different personality? I'm an orange. How do I deal with a gold? How do I deal with a green? How do I deal with a blue? And that is a tool, again, not a science, but it's a tool to help you, because you have to talk to a green different than you do. Like, Rob, you're an orange. Robert or Patrick is probably a green. So I have to talk to him different than I talk to you, or a gold. My wife's a gold. Gold, just tell me. Just cut to the chase. Tell me. Oranges? Sugar coated, make it all fun, yeah. So if you do that, if you make it all fun and sugar coat it to a gold, you've lost them. Oh, big wall up. So in a gold, talking to an orange, if they just said, "Hey, do this. This is when I want it." Oh my God, you hurt my feelings. You're an ass. So that's the only reason I disagree with not focusing on the personalities. And I think it's a good tool. Okay, don't go get in. I mean, I've taken all the Stephen Covey's of 7 Habits, and I spent a week in Tucson 25 years ago learning that, and the ropes and falling down and teamwork. I'm not saying that, but I do think for me, I have found it very useful to understand what type of personalities I have on a know your audience, right? It's as simple as know your audience and understand what motivates and what drives a person. And I do that through finding out what color they are, and I guess, and then I approach them how that color wants to be approached. That's all.
No, and that makes sense. It's just did I lose connection again? I feel like I
You're
lost
back.
connection. I'm back.
You do occasionally
yeah.
Lose
stutter,
connection.
have a lag. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna throw my internet provider Spectrum under the bus, but and that makes
This
sense.
episode brought to you by not Spectrum anymore. That's
right?
for sure.
Exactly. And that definitely makes sense. My fundamental problem is people making that stuff biblical, right? I read one book and now all of a sudden I am a 1-minute manager and that's the only thing that I can do. And that's the only, or I'm a owl or I'm a pigeon or a freaking Pikachu. It doesn't matter what.
Rob, that's such an orange alpha bear thing to say.
Bear thing to
well,
say.
You forgot to put the DFRT.
Right, yeah, orange alpha bear, LTEV, whatever. Yeah.
Oh, from Strengths Finder.
Yeah.
I remember.
Well, Myers-Briggs is letters.
Yeah, the Myers-Briggs. Yeah, the Myers-Briggs is what it was.
Yeah,
I'm in between. I'm in between both of you in this because on the one hand, Eric, yes, I agree that as a tool, it's an important aspect of understanding. Number one, you got to talk to people differently, and that there are here are examples of the different personalities and the different ways to approach people. And to Rob's point, you got to just do it too. But you also got to understand that the way that you approach a certain color does not define that person as that color because there's because we're 3D in that way.
Yeah.
And to Rob's earlier story, right? For the guy who you can be friends with outside of work, but you can't be friends with inside work, that's a whole different other story of here is his personality outside. And so you may see him as a different, color out there versus on the inside of work where he switches that and all of a sudden it's something completely different. But again, it's a great tool though to approach and to figure out like how do we do this?
That's it, because all these personality tests, I don't care which one, the dog, the animal, Myers-Briggs, when you take them, you scored every 4 categories. You're going to score in every personality. But what's your dominant personality?
Right.
And that's the one, again, you shouldn't take any of this stuff as the Bible, as you said, Rob. Nothing. I don't care. Take little bits and pieces of what works for you, and then put that into your day-to-day environment. But you shouldn't. I mean, that goes for everything. Just because a doctor's a doctor and it says that hey, you're dying, you go to another doctor and says no, you just had indigestion. Just because they're a doctor doesn't mean you listen to, you shouldn't, people go to 3 or 4 different mechanics, or, hey, I'm getting, my neighbor's getting a new floor. Oh, we got 4 estimates. But people go to one doctor. Oh, the doctor said that I have this. Did you get a different opinion? No, he's a doctor. I don't give a rat's patootie if he's, but so anyway, I'm going off on a tangent, but that's the same thing that goes for a leader. Just because I read this book that says "Who moved my cheese," now doesn't mean that that's exactly the way I deal with change. I take little bits and pieces I feel works for me and use that. That's why it's good to educate yourself and read multiple stuff to take bits and pieces and become your own leader.
I completely agree. My doctors tell me all the time I need to stop drinking and I need to stop smoking, and I just don't believe them. So I'm going to a doctor.
Find another doctor.
I'm finding another doctor.
Find that one doctor that says that it's actually good for you.
I'm telling you.
I'm sure that doctor exists. He's probably down on 7th Street in the middle of downtown Dallas, and he's got a prescription pad that he can just write all sorts of stuff on. Now,
we do that. We do that with every industry. Just because they are who they are, we believe that. Oh, my manager said that this was
exactly.
That okay.
It's amazing.
Don't take everything for face value.
It's amazing the number of times that I've seen this, but also have it happen to myself, where as a manager I'll say something and I'll say it in a way of, well, it's kind of like this is what I'm thinking of doing, and someone that unexpected to me takes that literally in such a way that like a day or a week later I find out and I go, what do you mean you did that exact? That's not what my intention at all. And I tried to be clear about the fact that that's not what I wasn't looking for just that. But that's what you said, and I have it written down. Hold on, wait.
Well, and that's a good point, Patrick. I mean, and this is talking to our future leaders, right? Look at what you're, look at the intentions behind the messages that you're being given, right? There are some leaders out there that are very prescriptive. Do this, 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 this. And then there are other leaders out there that are more open that say, "Hey, I need this," right? And go find yourself, right? Look for the meaning behind the meaning and the question behind the question, right? So that's huge.
Why are we doing this?
Right.
Why do I even care what kind of personality you are? And why do I want to talk to you the way you want to be talked to? Why? I'll tell you why. So you don't get that defensive wall up, and now all of a sudden you don't get what you want from that person.
Yep.
All communication is, the three of us communicating right now, we are trying to get something out of each other. That's what communication is. I don't care if you go to the grocery store and you're talking to the checker, have a conversation. Make that encounter matter, because you don't want her to goof up and charge you too much, or if everyone says don't piss off a waiter because they're going to spit in your food. Well, that's you need to make every encounter matter. So just to your point, Rob, why are we doing this? Why do we even care that we're engaging with people? Because we need something from them. We want them to do something for us. So that's why we're doing all this. That's why you need techniques. That's why, because we're trying to accomplish something.
And I think going off of that, Eric, I think it's important to point out that it's not just a matter of we want something from them, and that's why we do what we do. Because I wanna hone in on something that I think is beneath the skin here for all of us. We want to have authentic encounters with people. We want to have real conversations with them, and we want to have these true connections with people, because this is also something that we've wanted too, and because we've seen that this is what makes life better, and this is what makes things better, and this is how you get the most from me. So I'm going to try to establish that with you so that I can help you get the most from what it is that you're doing, so that you can be successful in this job, or you can be successful, bagging the groceries, or you can be successful in knowing what I really mean when I say that I want my hair cut in this way, so that it's not something completely different by the time that we're done. It's having these authentic moments with people so that communication is real, and what the other person needs and what the other person wants, Therefore, you're going to be able to meet and exceed their expectations. And let's face it, exceed expectations.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
the fact is when we have that true communication, like we know that our expectations are always lower because of all the things that happen anyways. But when you have someone who you have that true connection with, that encounter always gives you something that exceeds the expectation.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
what you just said in a nutshell, I can sum up what Patrick just said. Make every connection matter. Boom.
Exactly. And you never know what connections are going to matter. So now's my story time of this, right? So
This about a boat? Are we going to talk about a boat?
not this time.
Okay.
I mean, I could lead into the boat if I needed to. No, but in all seriousness, about 7 months ago, I'm taking my trash out, or I'm in my garage. I'm playing my video games in my garage, and I hear a commotion outside the back of my house.
Why are you playing video games in your garage?
Because that's where
His
my
wife.
Xbox is.
All right.
There's a long, it's a long, run out story. That's where my Xbox is.
Okay.
So anyways, I'm playing video games in my garage. I got a man cave in my garage. It's awesome. I'll take you through it one of these days. But I hear
you don't live in Arizona. In Arizona, you couldn't have a man cave in the garage.
No, I live in Texas, and you still can't really have a man cave in the garage. This was November. Like it was gorgeous.
All right.
The man cave, gradually goes from one place to the other.
It rotates around the house.
Right.
Anyway,
wherever the
Xbox is. So I hear this commotion, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to shoot somebody because my neighbor had just moved out. So I'm like, somebody's at my neighbor's house. They're stealing catalytic converters, or they're stealing the whatever. So I hit my garage door, and it goes up, and there's these two guys out there in a big truck and another guy. And I go, I'm big tough neighborhood watch guy. Hey, help you folks with something? And this guy comes running over. I mean, running over. No, I'm so sorry. It's all good. I'm your new neighbor. I'm moving in, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, okay. And, I introduce myself, and we have a conversation. And then next thing you know, he's out with me on my boat on the 4th of July with his kids and his wife, and we're all the families are together, and we're having a great time. I had no idea that singular interaction was going to generate for me a new friend. Right? So I went into that interaction thinking I'm going to have to fight somebody. And I ended up coming out with a really good new friend that's a great guy, and it's a great family, and sweet little girls, and we hang out, and our families hang out together, and we all have a good time. Right? So every interaction that you have is an opportunity to grow yourself, your social sphere, and just everything about you, right? I like to use the word always be coaching, but always be on the lookout for interactions that are going to grow you as a person. So we promised you guys stories, so there's a story.
Well, between the three of us, we have lots of stories.
Yeah. Some of our guests, we'll have a guest on. It's going to have to be a 3-part guest.
The amount of stories that he'll have.
Yeah. You know who I'm talking about too.
Oh yeah.
Our guests will all know who we're talking about. But anyways, I think that's a pretty solid lead in to what we're going to be talking about. I think that's a pretty solid lead into just kind of who we are. And, we look forward to continuing the ride, and we look forward to anybody who feels like continuing to join us. And we hope that one of, the stories or the conversations that we had today has helped or touched somebody. And we look forward to continuing this journey with everyone.